Whether it's a hot time in Florida or a rainy night in Georgia,
looking for trouble?
It's the perfect time for the TCBCast, an unofficial Elvis fan podcast.
Oh, yes, sir. Good to see you go, folks. This black fix bring you the hottest thing in the country, real hot and blue, coming to WHB in Memphis, Tennessee.
With your hosts, Justin Gosman and Gurdeep Ladar. The TCBcast is on the air.
Ladies and gentlemen, Elvis Presley.
Well, since my baby left me,
all the memories are linger in my heart.
ooh, I feel my temperature rising.
He wrote upon it, return to sender, address son.
But the man who can sing when he hasn't got a thing, he's a king of the whole wide world.
Okay, so I picked a doo-wop song. No, I'm just kidding. I picked I'll Remember You from 1964 or 1966, depending on what recording it is.
I'll remember you long after this endless summer is gone. I'll be lonely, oh so lonely, living only to remember you.
You obviously heard this song?
Yes, of course.
Written by Cooley. I think that's how you say it, Cooley.
Kui Lee?
K-U-I and then Lee. Kui Lee.
Yeah.
Kui Lee was a singer-songwriter of popular Hawaiian music from the 60s. Lee was actually born in Shanghai, China, to Hawaiian and Chinese parents, but moved back to Hawaii with his dad after his mom passed away when he was 5. Kui Lee became friends with Don Ho, and his songs that he were pretty much, they made Don Ho a star.
Mm-hmm.
Don credited Lee for creating that new island music for a new generation. Cooley only achieved fame towards the end of his life, though. Only released one album called The Extraordinary Kui Lee, which includes I'll Remember You. So, unfortunately, Lee died at a young age of 34 from lymph gland cancer on December 3rd, 1966.
Mm-hmm.
So, let's get to Lee's version of I'll Remember You from 1966, which is very different from Elvis's. So the song, the way he sings it, now, have you heard this, Justin?
I have not heard the original version of I'll Remember You. I think I've heard Don Ho's. I know
Technically, this is not the original version, because Don Ho sang it first.
Oh, okay.
But this is Lee's version, which is from 66.
Okay.
So he kind of sings it fast and very laid back, almost like a lounge singer style.
I'll remember you long after this endless summer is gone. I'll be lonely, oh so lonely, living only to remember you.
He kind of reminds me, when he sings it, kind of like Bobby Darin's style singer.
Oh, okay.
So it's an interesting take on it. I do like this version, but the lyrics, they don't seem to go with the style he chose to sing it. It's probably because, I'm too influenced by how Elvis did it.
Mm-hmm.
But, the lyrics seem to clash with the style, but still, I do like it. But, so Don Ho was the first one who sang it in 1965. So this version is probably what influenced Elvis. It's much slower, more sadness, but still sung at a fairly good pace.
To your arms someday, I'll return to stay. Till then I will remember too every bright star.
Which sounds really, really good. And Don Ho's voice is really it's interesting because the way he sings, it's like when I detect like a cross between Elvis and Dean Martin. Do you get that?
That's kind of an apt description, yeah.
Because have you heard that song of his called Tiny Bubbles?
Yes.
That's totally channeling like Elvis, Dean Martin. It's crazy.
Yeah.
But you've heard his version of I'll Remember You?
Yes.
So what do you think of that?
I think it's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's similar to Elvis's, right?
It is. It is.
So let's get to Elvis's version. This recorded on June 10th, 1966 in RCA's Studio B in Nashville. The vocals actually were recorded later on June 12th. So what happened was these sessions were set up after the How Great Thou Art sessions in May. RC and the Colonel felt they needed a new Christmas single and another pop song, which those sessions had failed to deliver. So Elvis was given a bunch of demos to go through for the new music session, but as usual, he rejected pretty much all of them. Ernst wrote this in Life and Music. So the stuff Elvis was listening to at the time was what RCA and Freddie Beanstalk considered too old. The things he was listening to at this time period was like Bob Willis's Faded Love, Faye Adams' Shake a Hand, Laverne Baker's Saved, Brooke Benton's A Million Miles Away, Sanford Clark, The Fool, Ray Peterson's The Wonder of You. So this is the stuff that he really liked, but RCA didn't want him doing this kind of, these songs because they were older.
Right.
So when Elvis and his group arrived in Nashville, he said he had a cold and he wasn't in the mood to record. So he sent Red West instead to record his vocals with the band. And one of the tracks that Red recorded was I'll Remember You, which Elvis and his group had first heard in Hawaii and they loved. So Elvis finally went back into the studio on the 12th and laid down the vocal track.
Someday I'll return to stay. Till then I will remember too every bright star we made wishes.
So Elvis's version, as I said, is similar to Don Ho's, except, man, can Elvis deliver sadness vocally? I mean, he sounds so depressed, but it's great. You could just sense the longing and the melancholy in his voice. I think this is one of his best ballads. What do you think of the song?
It's such an underrated song because I don't think a lot of people, particularly the studio version, is an underrated performance because most people are more familiar with the Aloha from Hawaii version, which I know you're going to get to, but the studio version, I fell in love with the studio version because he's got this sort of yearning in his voice that I mean, that was one of the things that Elvis, did best in terms of emotional projection into.
He takes you there.
Yeah, and it's this very wistful performance, kind of reflecting on all of obviously the lyrics talk about I'll remember you long after this is gone. And
I remember I played this once for my friend. It just happened. We were driving and it just happened to come on, and he's like, "Man, that's a great song. I want to play this at my funeral." I'm like, "Wow, that's pretty morbid, but wow, I can totally picture that as well."
Yeah, absolutely.
So he's like, "I'll leave them all crying." I'm like, "Why are you getting joy out of people crying for you dying?" He's like, "I don't know." But yeah, I get what you're saying. But the problem is that they dumped this song as a bonus track on Spin Out. Such a waste, because they could have totally used this as a single, even as a B-side to a single. It would have been great.
Yeah.
But
see, and that again, it goes back to all of these freaking bonus tracks should have been on their own LPs or as their own singles, and they really just botched Elvis's career in the late 60s, the mid to late 60s.
All these bonus songs that he was doing. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, I mean, you're probably going to say exactly kind of what I was going to say, but it's like all these bonus songs are where he was making his artistic evolution occur for the 60s, because and I know that there are some fans in the Elvis fan world that get frustrated because among fans we like to talk about how, you know, Elvis was doing, you know, Down in the Alley and Tomorrow Is a Long Time and I'll Remember You and all these great songs in the mid 60s, and they get tired of hearing that as though it's like a given, but like the mainstream audience, the mainstream public have no idea these songs exist in this like form. Like it continues to be a revelation for many new Elvis fans that there are recordings out there like, you know, Fools Fall in Love and High Heel Sneakers and Down in the Alley and I'll Remember You studio versions that are so brilliantly performed in the midst of bunk like Spin Out and Clam Bake.
Yeah. So that's exactly what I was going to say as well. But, you know, whatever. It is what it is. So it was released on October 31st. While you get off your little rant stool.
I'm going to get off my soapbox.
And so it was released October 31st in 1966. It was released on Halloween. That's interesting. So during the 70s, Elvis performed the song a bunch of times, like the afternoon Madison Square Garden show.
I will remember too every bright star we made wishes upon. Love me always, promise always.
Yes.
Which I do like, but I prefer the studio version more. It's okay. It's not great. But as you said, more famously, he performed it in the 1973 Aloha from Hawaii show on January 14th, and also the rehearsal show on the 12th.
We were doing it for the Kuili cancer drive. We were supposed to raise $5,000 or $25,000, and we raised $75,000 tonight. So thank you. Thank you.
I'll remember you long after this endless summer is gone.
This was actually a benefit for Cooley's cancer fund, which raised $75,000. I like the live versions better than these live versions better than the Madison Square Garden one. He seems more into it, more close to the studio version. The setting probably is what made the difference.
The stress was on. That's the thing, though, is that Elvis, even on the songs where, like Burning Love, where he's giving a little weaker performance than what he did in the studio. Now, obviously, Burning Love is a little tougher song, but Elvis is bringing what his A game could be for that point in his life. He was bringing
exactly. So check out those two versions, which I really like as well. But as I said, nothing tops that studio version. And then Elvis performed it a few more times in 1975.
This next song is from the special that we did from Hawaii about a year and a half ago called Aloha. It's called I Remember You.
Your voice as soft as a warm summer breeze. Your sweet laughter, mornings after, ever after, I'll remember you.
Each one is really good. It shows that he really loved this song, and he took his time with it. An interesting note is he always introduced the song as the one he did in his Aloha special from Hawaii. And lastly, I just wanted to point out...
Well, and just really quick, that speaks to how prominently, memorable that song was in that special. Like, of all the songs, because, I mean, obviously it's a full concert, but that was one of the ones that stuck out for people, including Elvis, and was the more well-known of that show. It really says a lot that was the one that people took away from it.
Yeah, but also because, the reason for that show, what they were raising funds for, was the person who wrote the song.
Was the songwriter, yeah.
Yeah.
Or their fund, yeah.
Yeah. So just wanted to point out a few standout versions. Andy Williams recorded a version in 1965. Really good. Very slow, but a nice rendition. And Connie Francis recorded hers in 1968. Really nice. Connie has a great soft voice that fits well with the song.
Mm-hmm.
So check out those versions, and that's it. That's all I got.
Nice. Yeah, I haven't heard either of those covers, so I will have to check those out. And yeah, if you haven't revisited the studio version of "I'll Remember You in a While," please do. Excellent recording. I
remember checking out the Spin-Out soundtrack, and it really stands out from that soundtrack. You're like, where did this come from?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think the only one that maybe stands out more in terms of bonus tracks is Guitar Man on the Clambake album. Like, there's literally no reason for that song to be on there.
Yeah, exactly.
And not only that, but it's the first song. Okay, I'm getting way off track, but this, it's a soapbox that I got to stand.
Speaking of Clambake, we should cover that.
That would be interesting.
Yeah. All right.
Do you have the Blu-ray?
Of Clambake?
Yeah.
I don't think so. Do you do?
I do. I picked it up. We talked about it it was like one of our first couple episodes. We talked about me picking it up, but it's a really nice transfer because the DVD I had is really awful quality.
Any additional extras on that?
Yeah, there's a commentary.
Oh, okay. By who?
It's by some guys from like a video store in Atlanta, I think.
Oh, are they fans?
No, not really.
Oh,
but they actually do bring a lot of trivia type stuff in there. It's kind of neat. So.
Okay, cool. All right, so what do you got?
So my song of the week is an Elvis song, but it's not known as an Elvis song. It's Runaway.
I'm walking in the rain, tears are falling and I'm feeling pain, wishing you were here by me to end this misery, and I wonder.
Nice. Del Shannon.
Del Shannon's Runaway. Charles Westover is Del Shannon's real name. He and keyboardist Max Crook co-wrote the song. Essentially, it was written to highlight and showcase Max Crook's instrumental skills. There was a instrument that Crook was using at the time called a clavioline. I think it's what I don't know. He called it a musitron because basically he had hodgepodged the official instrument with like some other equipment and parts to give it a different sound, and he was experimenting with it, and it had this very kind of synth-like sound to it, which is what is used for the solo in Del Shannon's version of it. There's actually a recording out there of Del Shannon talking about the songwriting process of how they came up with it and where they ended up coming up with the sound for the song.
It was born on stage, actually. I had an idea, I think, in my mind I always wanted to run away. Max Crook, he was my organist at the time, he started playing an A minor and G. And I said, hey, what was that? And he played it again, and I said, follow me. And I went dun 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 dun. And I sang anything that came to mind. I had the structure of the song done. that night. And the next day I went to the carpet shop that I worked at, selling carpets. And I never sold many carpets, so while I wasn't selling anything, I was just sitting on the carpet chair, just playing my guitar, mainly all day. And the next day I wrote the words to that. Then I called Max, and I said, Max, bring your tape recorder tonight to the club, because we're going to have to record this song called Runaway. And when I point to you, play something. Play anything you can on your little machine there. When I pointed to him, he played the same solo that's on the record. We went to New York, and he never changed it.
And so the master for Del Shannon's version was recorded January 21st, 1961 at Bell Sound Studios, was released the following month, and was climbing the charts over the next couple months. But once Del Shannon appeared and performed it on American Bandstand, pushed it to number 1 in April 1961, and it became a massive, massive hit that year.
I love this song.
It's a very haunting song.
I'm a-walking in the rain, tears are falling and I feel a pain, wishing you were here by me to end this misery. And I wonder, wonder why.
The Musitron solo gives it this very odd vibe. I even though the tone is not the same, the tempo is not the same, I would compare it in a way to Heartbreak Hotel.
It has this haunting sound to it. There used to be a TV show, Crime Story, in the 80s. They used that as their opening.
Yep.
And it really fit well. But
yep.
I love the song since the first time I heard it. I was like, wow, it's such a great song.
Yeah.
And that instrumental break is excellent.
Well, and the version on Crime Story was actually a re-recording that Del Shannon did contemporaneously with the show, and it added new lyrics.
I'm a-walking in the rain, tears are falling and I feel a pain, watching all the planes go by, some live and others die. I wonder, I wonder.
And this is one of those songs where initially you think about it as like a slow downbeat song. When you actually listen to the master recording, it's this very upbeat rock and roll tune, even though it's giving off this kind of depressing message about I'm walking in the rain, tears are falling, and I feel the pain, wishing you were here by me to end this misery.
And I wonder.
And I wonder.
Why?
She ran away, and I wonder. But anyway, so
my little
run away.
It's such a catchy song. It's hard not to sing it.
It is. Years later, it still holds up. So Elvis did a version in 1969. Several times he performed it live in his August 1969 performances in Las Vegas. At the August 26th show, he actually introduces Del Shannon, who was in the audience. That version was released on the Collector's Gold box set, and is actually the last documented time that he performed it.
If I'm not mistaken, ladies and gentlemen, the guy that wrote this song is in the audience tonight. And I don't think I've met him, but I really dig the song. I'd like you to say hello to Del Shannon. Are you out there, Dale? Are you out there? Turn the lights, man. Are you there? Oh, hey. Nice to see you. There you go. Right over there, Lamar. Del Shannon, ladies and gentlemen. Glad to have you come out, man. I've been doing your song every night, you know. It's about to strip my throat, but I've been doing it every night.
Later on, the whole show was released on the FTD All Shook Up. The August 23rd Midnight Show version is the more well-known because that's the version that was used for the album On Stage, which is where most people would have heard Elvis's version of that. That was released in 1970. And what's interesting about Elvis's version is that he takes it at a much faster tempo than Del Shannon's. He doesn't do the high register why-why-whys. He leaves that to the backing vocals. But he does sound like he's having fun performing it. What do you think of Elvis's version of it?
I do like his version. It is really good. I don't like it as much as Del Shannon's, but I like his take on it. It's different. It's a great song.
Yeah.
And he takes it in a kind of a different direction. I can still enjoy it.
So here's my thing. When you look at the songs that Elvis was performing in 1969, he wasn't really doing a lot of his contemporary songs. Like, yeah, he would just throw in, like, What Did I Say? But obviously he had done that in Viva Las Vegas. And he threw in stuff like, Blue Suede Shoes and things like that. Songs that were already associated with him. Mm-hmm. Why do you think that he picked, of all the songs by his 50s, 60s contemporaries, why do you think he picked Runaway, even though he had never recorded it in studio?
I'm thinking this is one of those records that he really liked and would play it constantly. And when it was time to start performing again, it's one that stood out to him. I just think it's one of those songs that he liked. And who would not like this song? It's such a great song.
Yeah. No, right? But yeah, I mean, it just, to me...
Look at the songs that he was listening to when I was just talking about I'll Remember You. It was all stuff from like the late 50s, early 60s.
Yeah, that's true.
So
that's true.
It's that time period I think he seemed to really enjoy. So
yeah, but yeah, I mean that was just, for me, it was one of those looking at, because it's not like, because he did have some weird one-offs like he did My Babe and things like that, but he kept going back to, during that whole engagement at the International in '69, kept going back to Runaway. And it's like, why? Because it's not an Elvis song. But anyway, so other versions of it, the Shirelles did a version of it in 1964. Their version is a little slower than Del's, a little more deliberate. It takes a little while to build to it, but about halfway through the song, it really kind of gets into a nice groove. Got this great kind of clapping along, these doo-wop type vocals. Gary Lewis and the Playboys. Gary was the son of comedian Jerry Lewis. They did a version in 1965, very straightforward rock and roll version. Not really any better than Del Shannon's version. I mean, not like you could, but it just doesn't come close. And then Bonnie Raitt in 1977 did a version, vastly different, much slower, much bluesier. Have you heard that?
Nope, I have not.
It's got this great kind of country guitar. It's got harmonica solos. There's a harmonica solo. You might want to check it out.
Mm-hmm. Well, Bonnie Raitt, it's not one of the artists I usually go to. What's her big song that she has?
Something to Talk About.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, I'll give you something to talk about.
Song.
Yeah.
I like that song.
Yeah.
But yeah, besides that, I don't really.
I have not heard that song in years.
Yeah.
Okay, well, anyway.
Enough of Bonnie Raitt. So, probably not bring her up again.
Right. So, Del Shannon passed away in 1990, and he unfortunately committed suicide. And so following his death, Traveling Wilburys did a version. For those who don't know, the Traveling Wilburys were comprised of Bob Dylan, George Harrison, Jeff Lynne, Roy Orbison when he was alive, and Tom Petty. By the time they did their version, Roy Orbison had passed away. It's on the Traveling Wilburys Volume 3. It's pretty good. It's very faithful to the Del Shannon version, but it has sort of this raw jam session sort of vibe to it. Country artist Gary Allan did a version as well in 1999 that I'm familiar with on his Smoke Rings in the Dark album. Very country, has this sort of Spanish style of guitar playing and steel guitars, kind of your pretty typical early 2000s, late 90s country. And then in 2017, Avenged Sevenfold did a version as a bonus track on the deluxe version of their album, The Stage. Have you heard that version?
I haven't even heard of them.
Really? Okay.
Who is it?
Avenged Sevenfold.
Oh, I thought it called Revenge Seven, and I was like, is that a film?
So, and their version is, I mean, it draws pretty heavily from heavy metal, which is kind of their preferred genre.
Avenged Seven?
Avenged Sevenfold.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But it also...
You're acting like they're big time. No one's heard of them.
You're going to get some angry listener mail, I think.
Who are they?
They're a metal band.
Oh, okay. Avenged Sevenfold?
Yes.
Okay. Awesome.
Check it out. Check them out. It's heavy metal.
You're telling me you've heard of them before you did this research?
Yes. My friend Jesse used to listen to them all the time in high school.
When were they big, or when are they going to get big? Have they ever been on the Billboard charts?
Yes.
They have?
So they formed in 1999. We're going to go into this. So Avenged Sevenfold formed in 1999. They're from California, and they have had a number of charting hits, including their album Hail to the King, which was a #1 album on the Billboard 200.
The rock charts?
No, on the overall Billboard 200.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
#1 album.
Holy crap. Okay. Where have I been?
I don't know where you've been, but yeah. Okay. Avenged Sevenfold. And they're kind of an interesting band. They've got, obviously they're a metal band, but they do have a lot of songs where they've gone off and experimented in different genres. They've got a country song that they've done that's called Dear God. That's actually a really interesting song.
Stay tuned for the Avenged Sevenfold cast.
Coming
soon.
I don't know enough. I would get...
it sounds like you're their biggest fan.
I'm not, but I at least know who they are.
The way you're defending them.
I at least
know
who
I
they
insulted
are.
your best friend.
I was a little insulted that you didn't believe me that they were a thing.
Okay. Well, this is the very first time I've heard that they existed. But they covered Runaway, which is something.
They did cover Runaway. So yeah, I mean, even today, even up to within the last couple of years, it's still being covered, and it's still a very relevant song, and continues to be memorable. And I mean, it's
any
great.
films that deal with like the early '60s or '50s type, they'll always include it. American Graffiti, I remember.
Yep.
It was a big scene in there they played, so stuff like that, you'll always get it.
Yep. So yeah, that was my song of the week. Is Runaway.
And I think you're up first.
I believe so. So my song of the week this week
is Runaway.
It's not Runaway.
Let's talk about Del Shannon again.
Although it's from a similar period. It's Inherit the Wind.
'Cause the north wind flows through my veins. Like my dad, there's a dream in my brain. In the morning I'll have to leave again. That's how it is when you inherit the wind. Inherit the wind.
Oh, nice. nice.
Inherit the Wind.
Wait a second, that's not the same time period. Oh, same time period for Elvis, you mean?
For Elvis's version of...
Yes. Okay.
Yeah, Runaway. 1969. Now, there's a whole story. It was written by Eddie Rabbitt, who also wrote Kentucky Rain and Patch It Up that Elvis recorded.
I like Eddie Rabbitt's I Love the Rainy Nights.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite songs of all time, actually.
It's it's not really country. It's more rockabilly-ish. I think that's probably why I like it so much.
Rockabilly's not even an appropriate genre for it. It's more country pop.
It's rockabilly.
Okay, sure. But he became a popular country performer in his own right. He also had some other hits like Every Which Way But Loose and Step by
Who
Step.
sang? He didn't sing Walking in Memphis, did he?
No, that was Mark
else.
Cohn.
Yeah, okay.
And then also
confused.
Driving My Life Away, and there's a whole bunch of other ones. But this song was actually first brought to Elvis in 1967, 2 years earlier. It was intended to be recorded. Lamar Fike had brought it because he was working for Hill and Range at the time, the publishing company. And he brought the song because he liked Eddie Rabbitt's stuff and brought it in hopes that Elvis would record it. Well, that recording session got canceled. That was the one where Elvis ended up getting flown out. One of his... there was a guy that got killed.
Yeah, somebody
hit
got
by a car.
Some dude, yeah.
In Elvis's car, and so... or by Elvis's car, and so they didn't want Elvis anywhere near that, so they canceled the sessions.
That was the Colonel's doing.
Yes. So apparently, as Ernst Jorgensen tells it in A Life in Music, Lamar brought it to allegedly every session between that and 1969. Lamar brought it to every one. For sure, he brought it to the 1967 September 67 sessions where Guitar Man, You'll Never Walk Alone, You Don't Know Me, where those were recorded. For sure, he brought it there. Along with Singing Tree. Singing Tree was selected over Inherit the Wind. Eventually, it was finally laid down in 1969 at American Sound. The instrumental was recorded on the 15th. While Elvis was out sick with laryngitis, there were a couple days where he got real sick and could not perform, could not record, so the band stuck around, recorded some instrumental tracks. Don't Cry Daddy was another one that was recorded during that time. And Elvis came in and recorded his vocal overdub on January 21st. What's your take on Inherit the Wind?
So I first heard this on the actual album. Was it Back in Memphis, right?
Yes.
Yes. There was that double one with the live show, in person.
Elvis at the International, yeah.
Yeah, that's it. This is one of the standout tracks for me because I really do like this because it tells a story, essentially, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, I always like this one, but I think it's really underrated as well because I don't think it gets a lot of play, does it?
No, hardly ever. I've always loved this song. The first time I heard it was on the Suspicious Minds 1969 anthology, which came out. It was a 2-CD set, and that was where I got introduced to a lot of the American sound stuff. And this is one that stuck out to me even then, alongside all those other great songs like Suspicious Minds. But like, I loved the story, and some of the lyrics, because it talks about, he's basically telling this woman, I am not the kind of person that you want to fall in love with because I am going to leave you behind. Like, it's in my blood that I am going to leave. Like, my dad left, my mom, and it's going to be exactly the same way.
Although that one line, I always thought it was kind of awkward, where he's like, as the north wind flows through my veins, which is fine. Yeah. But then, like my dad, there's a dream in my brain. That, I don't know. Dream in my brain kind of sounds weird to me.
where do you have your dreams, Gertie?
I know, but it's just usually people say, "Oh, I have this on my mind" or whatever. It's in my head. No one usually specifies the brain.
But it has to rhyme with vein.
That's what I'm saying. He had to rhyme it with vein, but usually people don't specify, the actual anatomy, unless you're like Cypress Hill talking about insane in the membrane. But that was the only part that I always thought it was kind of awkward, but I know it has to rhyme with vein.
Yeah. So, and for me,
I think I can do a better job rewriting this than Eddie wrote it. I'm just kidding.
I would love to hear you try. That would be amazing.
Hey, if you give me an hour, I can probably come up with something.
Okay. I would love. I imagine Eddie Rabbit probably sat and deliberated over that for a while.
I'm thinking he would have. Continued for next week, I will come up with some kind of alternate lyric to that.
Okay. So, anyway.
You're like, whatever.
The vocal overdub was recorded in 2 takes. You can really hear, especially on the first take, you can hear him. It's an intensely intimate performance, is kind of my note that I took. It sounds like he's like almost like inside the microphone, like he's that close. And you can hear him breathing really heavily. The song, because of its kind of higher range requirements, and plus the fact that he had just been sick, he's really breathing heavy to try to keep up with it, to belt the song the way it needs to. You can hear a lot of vocal flaws. You can hear him like swallowing his spit.
Daddy, he was a wandering man. I hardly knew his face. Mama, she cried for him at night. He never stayed in one place. 'Cause the north wind flows through my veins.
It's just interesting in that take. That's on the FTD for back in Memphis. And
that sounds kind of gross. When someone's so close, you can hear them swallow their spit.
It is. It's weird. Well, it's like not quite exactly the same, but sometimes on guitar pieces, I will notice when you can hear someone move their fingers on the on the frets, and it just it takes you out of the song for a moment, because it's so often so easy to get lost in the notes that are being played that you forget that there's a person behind the music that's being played, and they're having to physically move their hand. So that's what I like about. And I like it often when that happens, because it's very intimate when that happens.
Yeah, it's personal as opposed to, like, say, a drum machine or something.
Yeah, well, and oftentimes you don't get that stuff recorded because the microphone will be, further away or, whatever. But this take 2, he actually messes up initially, like right off the bat, because the first line is "Baby, don't fall in love with me," and he goes "Baby."
Yeah.
And then he keeps doing it.
Baby, don't fall in love with me. I'll only bring you grief. Baby, don't get your... I'll only have to leave.
And then when he gets to Daddy, he was a traveling man. The second verse, he goes, Daddy!
Daddy, he was a rambling man. I hardly knew his name. Nace. Mama, think of him at night. He never stayed in one place.
And by the end of the song, he's just completely goofing off, and his voice cracks.
Inherit the wind. Inherit the wind. Yeah. Inherit the wind.
And so to tell you how detailed Elvis fans like us are, we're not nearly this bad, but Keith Flynn's amazing website, keithflynn.com, which has Elvis's complete discography.
Great resource.
It documents exactly which sections of both takes were composited to make the master take. Like, somebody actually sat down and did an A-B comparison, like down to the first 41 seconds are take 1, the next 8 seconds are take 2, the next 1 minute 41 seconds are take 1 again. Like, the whole thing has been documented which take it comes from. And the composite master, when that was pieced together, was overdubbed later on in the process, and like we talked about, it was released on Back in Memphis. But interestingly, it was recorded, or he performed it live only once during the August 26, 1969 dinner show at the International, and he talks about how this was originally it was released on the Collector's Gold box set, and then the whole show was released on the FTD Elvis Live in Las Vegas. But when you hear it, you can hear him talking about how they are recording a live album and he has to include some new songs, and he even asks for the lyrics to make sure. The live version, it's pretty faithful to the master, but because the TCB band is doing it rather than the studio players that were at American Sound, it's a lot groovier. It's got this really funky bass line that's going through it. I think it's not better than the master, but it's definitely a very fun performance for a one-off.
Daddy, he was a traveling man. I hardly knew his face. Mama, she cried for him at night. He never stayed in one place. 'Cause the north wind flows through my veins. Like my dad, there's a dream in my brain.
It's nice to have alternate type person.
Yeah, well, and especially considering there was never technically a singular performance in the studio. Like, it was Frankensteined together from different takes.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So
I wonder why he never performed it again, though.
I don't know. And I don't know if maybe he was just recording it just as a favor to Lamar. Like, if I record this week, get it off, get off my back about it. Yeah. But later on, he would do other Eddie Rabbitt songs that he performed more frequently, like Kentucky Rain and Patch It Up. Mm-hmm. So clearly wasn't anything to do with the songwriter or the caliber of the song. No. I think it might have just been too wordy for him.
Yeah.
He definitely preferred...
He didn't like maybe reactions he was getting. He got
well,
from it.
He only did it once, so it's hard to really judge.
Well, this wasn't released as a single, was it?
No, it wasn't. Okay. This was.
So it wouldn't have been known as well.
It was used as essentially filler on a double album, which right. and I've said this many times when I did the RCA box set album. I know that Back in Memphis was released as a separate LP, but I wish that it had initially been released as a separate LP, and promoted as a completely different album, because having it come out of the gate as part of a double set just completely makes that less important than the live recording, because those live recordings on Live at the International are so good, but then the studio album just kind of gets and there's this whole other album here. You don't have to pay attention to it. But everything on there is brilliant in its own way. And Inherit the Wind is definitely one of the more underrated ones in there, and that's why it's one of my songs of the week.
Excellent pick. Very underrated.
Thank you.
And I would consider it a deep cut.
Oh, absolutely.
So after that high of your great song, I'm going to bring it down a bit, and kind of anticlimactic song, because I basically talked about this song already. It's I Don't Want to Be Tied, 1962.
I want my share of love, and might as well be known, but I ain't thinking of one girl to love alone. That ain't the way it's gonna be. I'm on my own and I am free, and I've been satisfied. So I don't wanna be tied.
Oh, really? No way.
The reason for this
is you cheaped out on us this week, Gritty.
It's not really cheaped out, because I heard the song for the main topic, and I was like,
"You cheaped out on us."
This is a great song. Why wasn't this my song of the week earlier? So I was like, "Screw it! It's going to be my song of the week this week."
It's a good one.
It is. So it was written by Bernie Baum, Florence Kay, and Bill Giant, who recorded a bunch of songs for Hill and Range. They wrote a lot of the 60s stuff, like Devil in Disguise, Queenie Heaney's Papaya, Golden Coins, House of Sand. So they were hit and miss. And then they also wrote Power of My Love, strangely, which is out of left field also. compared to their other stuff. But it was recorded on March 28th at Radio Recorders in Hollywood during the Girls, Girls, Girls sessions. As I discussed before, I don't know if there's too much to say, but I really love this song. I think it's probably the second best song from the Girls, Girls, Girls soundtrack. Would you agree to that or no? Or would you pick Song of the Shrimp?
I would have to think about that.
Okay.
Let me think about it, but by the time we're done with your Song of the Week, I'll have decided.
Because of Love? That's another good song from me.
Well, I wouldn't put it as the second best. I'm kind... Well, see, that's the thing. I like Girls, 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 but it's not the best version.
Like the title track?
Yeah.
Okay. You like the Coasters one better?
Yeah, I do. And that's the thing that's catching me up, like hanging me up, is that I much prefer the Coasters version. You know, and Thanks to the Rolling Sea is another one of my favorites, too.
Oh, yeah, that's one of your favorites.
Because I use that one as one of my songs of the week.
Yeah.
But anyway, I Don't Want to Be Tied.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great rock song with the Jordanaires providing the backup, which I love. And as I said, Elvis seems to be having fun with it. Mm-hmm. And yeah, as we said before, the ending is great, similar to Rockahula Baby. They did 10 takes, with 8 being the master. They also spliced take 8 and 10 for the movie version.
Okay.
Take 10 has a false start, and the drum intro is much longer. You can check that out on the Girls, Girls, Girl FTT.
Excuse me, skill 10. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3.
I want my share of love and my... Hold it, I'm sorry.
And it was released on November 9th, 1962. Okay. And hasn't been recorded by anyone else, but as we talked about, oddly, it showed up on that Pizza Hut commercial. So that was probably because they were looking for a clip of Elvis for whichever, shots that they had.
Right.
And that probably just fit the bill. And, they didn't want to have him singing, a more popular song, I guess, because it wouldn't match properly.
Right.
So they just got him to sing what he was singing in that performance, which was I Don't Want to Be Tied.
Hey, I heard Elvis, the king himself, has come back.
Right. He's down at Pizza Hut doing the twist.
That ain't the way it's gonna be. I'm on my own and I am free.
Seems everybody's going to Pizza Hut for the Edge Pizza. After all, where else can you get these 16 pieces of pure pulchritudinous toppings? It's definitely the pizza place worth coming back to.
Thank you very much.
But yeah, anything else you can say about the song?
Not much more than the kind of we've already said. Yeah, now that I'm thinking about that, yeah, Thanks to the Rolling Sea, I'd put higher for me than I Don't Want to Be Tied. But yeah, I Don't Want to Be Tied for me would probably be number 3 song on there.
And Return to Sender would be your
number one, of course,
for sure.
Of course.
Yeah, so that, I mean, it's. I know I've talked about it a lot, and I don't think there's too much more to add. But I do really like the song, and I think it's really underrated, criminally underrated.
It's a victim of having a much more popular sibling.
Much more popular sibling. Can you say the same for the songs in Jailhouse Rock besides Treat Me Nice?
I would say even including Treat Me Nice.
No, Treat Me Nice is one of those well-known songs, isn't it? I think because it was the B-side to Jailhouse Rock, it still gets lots of love and recognition. And whenever you have like a best of Elvis, it's usually included, no?
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Yeah, great pick.
It. Thank you very much.
The feel of love is wild. But I want to be tired. I said I don't want to be. I don't want to be tired.
This week's going to be interesting because I picked something that you don't really like at this time.
Uh-oh.
But by next week, I think it'll be appropriate. I picked Santa Bring My Baby Back to Me, 1957.
Santa bring my baby back to me. Santa bring my baby back to me. I don't need a lot lot of presents to make my Christmas bright. I just need my baby's arms wound around me tight. Oh, Santa, hear my plea. Santa, bring my baby back to me. Santa, bring my baby back.
I'm in that mood, that Christmas mood.
Already.
I've already started playing Christmas music in our car, like our family car. I have USB plugged in, and we have different folders and seasonal folders because all of October was all Halloween music. And as soon as it turned over to November, boom, Christmas music. So, Santa Bring My Baby Back to Me, written by Claude Demetrius, Aaron Schroeder, and I've talked about these two in the past. Together and separately, they wrote many songs for Elvis, including I Was the One, which, excellent song. Got a Lot of Living to Do, Good Luck Charm, I Got Stung, Mean Woman Blues. So they have some pedigree. So this was recorded on September 7th, 1957 at Radio Recorders in Hollywood. This is a fun, energetic, catchy song. I think Elvis is in perfect form singing along with the Jordanaires. And for me, I actually think it's criminally underrated because everyone goes with Santa Claus is Back in Town and Blue Christmas. But this is the one that always stood out to me when I first listened to it with that Pickwick Elvis Christmas album. And it's such a short song as well. It's like under 2 minutes. And I kept playing it over and over always. But the weird thing is, like, in Ernst Jorgensen's, like, Life and Music, he doesn't even discuss the song. What do you think about that song?
I think it's great. Like you said, it's got this very kind of jaunty pop vibe to it. That isn't
doo-wop goodness.
A little bit.
I mean, that part where they're going the back and forth of the Jordanaires, where he's like, "It sure won't seem like Christmas unless my baby's here." You know, they're going back and forth. I love that.
Make these reindeer hurry. Well, the time is drawing near. It sure won't seem like Christmas unless my baby's here.
But no, I mean, this is an excellent song from Elvis's Christmas album.
How can you not say this is doo-woppy? This totally is.
I mean, it is. I mean, in certain parts.
Yeah.
Not the whole song through, but...
Do you think it's underrated?
Absolutely.
Compared to Santa is Back in Town?
I honestly, I know it's a great Lieber Stoller song, but I think Santa Claus is Back in Town is way overrated.
Really?
Yeah.
Because I really love that song as well. To me, it's like a companion piece to One Night. Because I can listen to those two for a long time.
And I'm not saying it's bad. I just think it gets way more attention than, some of these other Christmas songs.
I think it does get attention, but I also think that attention is justified. So,
that's fair. That's fair.
Agree to disagree on that.
Well, I mean, we're all in agreement that these songs are great. So
yeah. So, so they did 9 takes, with 9 being the master. Now, unfortunately, we have none of the outtakes to listen to, as the tapes were probably erased or destroyed during the 1959 RCA vault cleanup, which really, really sucks because apparently he also recorded Fool's Hall of Fame originally by Rudy Richardson during these sessions, but it was never released because he sang it live in my hometown here in Vancouver that summer, and he said it was going to be his next single. So it's always that thing of, did he record it? Because I know DJ said he did, and they did record some, but it wasn't good. But then other people saying that they might not have actually put it on tape, that they just went through it on rehearsal. So I don't know, but you can check out the Rudy Richardson original Fool's Hall of Fame to check it out.
Well, if I live to be 100, I won't forget the day I broke the heart you gave me and let you walk away. That's when they hung my name in the Fool's Hall of Fame.
Did you hear anything about that to add to that?
Not much more than you already have, man.
Okay.
You got it.
So yeah, it kind of sucks. It kind of sucks that none of the Christmas album outtakes are available from this time because, I mean, who knew that those would be valuable one day. So it was released on the Elvis Christmas album on October of 1957. It spent 4 weeks at number 1 on the Billboard charts. They also released an EP, Elvis Sings Christmas Songs. That included Santa Bring My Baby Back to Me, I'll Be Home, Blue Christmas, and Santa Claus is Back in Town. Now, they didn't release a single, but they did in the UK, and that reached number 7 on the UK singles chart.
Dang.
They were actually planning on making a single, but they did not. And that would have been, Santa Claus is Back in Town and Santa Bring My Baby Back to Me. So, 2016, Spankock released a remix version on the Elvis Spankock Christmas remixes. It's not too bad. They added some clapping. He added some clapping, some extra drum beats, a lot of musical sound effects, which Spankock is known to do. Did you hear this one?
I have heard this one. This one was kind of one of the more generic Christmas remixes that he did.
Yeah, he just kind of added extra things he did, but he didn't really change too much.
And some phaser type sounds and things like that.
Yeah, he does that a lot. But then in 2017, we had the Christmas with Elvis and the Royal Philharmonic Orchestra. And this was remixed again. Now, I don't know about you, but this one I really don't like. It doesn't do a lot for me. They replaced the Jordanaires, that's criminally insane if you ask me. They put in female backup vocalists, and they're more present throughout the whole song. But weird thing, they kept that dom-ba-dom-ba-dom with Jordanaires.
Yeah.
It's weird. Drum beat has also been changed, and they added a sax.
I don't need a lot of presents to make my Christmas bright. I just need my baby's arms wound around me tight. Oh, Santa, hear my plea. Santa, bring my baby back to me.
You must have heard this one.
Oh, yeah.
What do you think?
It's been, I think I only listened to that album once, and It's been a year, so I would have to revisit it to give you a more valid,
do you remember enjoying it
opinion.
or no?
I mean, I was absorbing the whole album as a whole, and honestly, there was a lot of those where I was just going, well, it's Elvis's Christmas album just with an orchestra.
So you weren't very impressed?
I wasn't really impressed with the whole album, which was a surprise for me, because that was just something about that. It just didn't seem like it added as much as, and maybe it's because we did get Christmas duets as well, which added new instrumentation and it wasn't on all the songs. Obviously, Santa Bring My Baby Back to Me wasn't on Christmas duets with anyone, but they did update some of the instrumental backing on some of these songs for that release, and I've just heard these songs so many times that it wasn't like they added anything so outrageously different, like on some of the other Royal Philharmonic Orchestra releases, where the arrangement has really been updated to something more contemporary. So it didn't really stick out to me. I'll have to go back and revisit it.
Right. Okay. So that's all I got about Elvis's. I'll just go on to 3 covers that stand out, because it's been recorded a lot of times, more in recent times than in the past. But so this is not really a cover, but Mick Jagger and Keith Richards of the Rolling Stones, of course, they briefly sang it during a rehearsal section in their 1965 music documentary called Charlie Is My Darling. Have you heard this or no?
No.
So it's just like a impromptu, mess around session where they sing a few Elvis songs, and they don't really know the words, so they mix up Santa Bring My Baby Back to Me with Treat Me Nice. And I know, just reading comments, Jagger puts on this exaggerated Elvis affectation while he sings.
Mm-hmm.
And as I said, people criticize saying that they seem to be making fun of Elvis, but I don't really get that. I think they're just messing around like anybody would when one singing a popular song and a popular singer's song. Like when people listen to Michael Jackson, they have that high pitch, obviously. Mm-hmm. So you can check that out. You can tell me what you think of that.
Love Santa, bring my baby back to me. Santa, bring my baby back to me. Hey, are you after me too?
Also, Mae West recorded a version in 1966.
Okay.
And this one's interesting. West herself is an interesting character because she was like an actor, a singer, a writer, comedian, and a sex symbol in her day. She was known for bucking the system and hating censorship. She would wear revealing clothes and litter her dialogue with double entendres because she was a writer and she would write a lot of her own dialogue. So Mae West is interesting. But in 66, she recorded a rock and roll album called Way Out West, which is basically like rock covers.
Yeah.
And she was 72 at the time. But you got to see this cover. She's wearing a very skin-tight outfit with a plunging neckline. She almost looks like Dolly Parton. So it's interesting. And then in that same year, she recorded her Christmas album called Wild Christmas with a version of Santa Bring My Baby Back to Me.
I don't need a lot of presents to make my Christmas bright. I just need my baby's arms wound around me tight. Oh, Santa, hear my plea. Santa, bring my baby back to me.
It's interesting, not too bad. She really follows Elvis's lead on the song and doesn't stray too far. And obviously she's not up to par vocally with Elvis, but there's a strange kazoo instrumental break in the middle. Yeah, so that's kind of interesting.
Well, I gotta check this out now.
Yeah, Mae West.
You say kazoo, I'm there.
Yeah, really?
Like, not even
I
kidding.
didn't know you were much of a fan of kazoo.
Oh man, did I ever send you my video Kazoo Hero? Me and my friends did a video that was a spoof of The Devil Went Down to Georgia, but it was with kazoos rather than fiddles. And like we actually did like the Devil Went Down to Georgia like fiddle solos, but with kazoos.
Death pulled out his kazoo and said, "I'll start this show." And fire flew out from his mouth as he puckered up to blow. And he hummed in that kazoo, and it made an evil hiss. Then a band of hosers joined in, and it sounded something like this.
It was spectacular. Kazoos are amazing.
And lastly, Chris Isaak recorded a version in 2004. This one's more low-key, not too bad. They added bongos and like a musical triangle, but it has a lot of Chris Isaak-isms in it.
Okay.
You probably know what I'm talking about. He has that low-key type of way of singing. So,
the Christmas tree is ready, the candles all aglow. But if my baby's far away, what good is mistletoe, Santa? Hear my plea.
That's not too bad, but yeah, the original is like excellent.
Yeah,
and,
the best by far.
Yeah, that's my song of the week. I hope I made up for my last week's snafu of picking something that we already discussed.
No, that's great. And I mean, by the time this episode comes out, we'll be nearing December, and I think it'll be good.
We'll be we'll be deep.
We won't be in
Christmas.
there yet, but
well, I mean, come on. I mean, if you go to any store right now,
oh yeah, it's Christmas music.
It's Christmas.
Been there, done that, heard it. Yeah.
Walmart, go anywhere, department stores, Christmas trees up, Santa's out. My kids are gonna go see Santa next week, I think. So, I mean,
fine.
There's that. So,
and
anyway.
when you get there, you got to tell Santa, "Bring my baby back to me."
I should.
And your wife your wife will smack you.
I'll be like, "You're back in town. You know, you got no sack on your back, a big black Cadillac. Where is it?" And they'll look at me like, "Security."
Oh, I love it.
Okay.
Well, great
so what do you
pick.
got?
My song of the week this week is "Promised Land."
Oh, get on.
Well, it turned into a struggle halfway across Alabama. Well, a hound broke down and left us all stranded in downtown Birmingham.
Oh, awesome. I thought we discussed this before. Did we discuss it?
On the list, I don't think we did. Let me check. I'm just
Probably
rolling
not.
through. I don't think we did.
You might have just talked about it.
I think we talked about it. We didn't feature it as Song of the Week. I'm going through the list here. We've done 43 episodes. This is our 43rd episode. Haven't done Promised Land. This is it.
Okay.
This
Cool.
is
I'm
it.
surprised we never got to it.
Written by Chuck Berry, the one and only Chuck Berry.
Who's he? Small time singer?
Oh, little guy. You would never have heard of him.
Underrated?
Yeah, very much so. Chuck Berry first recorded it in 1964 on his album St. Louis to Liverpool. However, this was not the original version of the song. It was actually taken from a country folk song called the Wabash Cannonball. Have you heard that song?
No, I never knew that. I thought Chuck was the originator.
No, this was, again, taking
Chuck,
the influence
you
of
lied to me.
blues and country and mashing them together. One of the earliest recordings of the Wabash Cannonball was done by the Carter family.
Out from the wide Pacific to the broad Atlantic shore, she climbs Clary Mountain o'er hills and by the shore. Although she's tall and handsome and she's known quite well by all, she's a regular combination of the Wabash Cannonball. Oh, the eastern states are dandies, so the western people say. Chicago, Rock Island, St. Louis, by the way.
Now, was it the same beat and Chuck kind of changed the lyrics?
Well, the Carter family version, not so much, but the most popular version of the era was the version that Roy Acuff did in 1936. Go listen to that version. Sounds almost exactly the same. Obviously, it's not rock and roll, but essentially, like the tempo and everything, melodically, it's Promised Land.
She came down from Birmingham one cold December day. As she rolled into the station, you could hear all the people say, "There's a girl from Tennessee, she's long and she's tall. She came down from Birmingham on the Wabash Cannonball."
Would you compare it to Sweet Little 16 and Surfing USA?
Oh, very much so. Very much so. To the point that Chuck Berry's version uses the word Birmingham in the same verse that in Roy Acuff's version and in the main song Wabash Cannonball, they also use the town name Birmingham.
Do you think he demanded royalties? Roy Acuff did, similar to how Chuck did from the Beach Boys?
Well, it wasn't one that he wrote, and it wasn't one that the Carters wrote either. It was a folk song that went actually back further than them.
Like public domain.
And at the time, and the Carter family was known to, or A.P. Carter, the kind of patriarch of the Carter family, was known to take credit for a lot of folk songs because he was oftentimes the first person to record it.
Right.
And so early on, he got a lot of royalties, but it was a public domain folk song. So Chuck was able to freely use it at his own discretion. The song, the original version of the song Wabash Cannonball was immensely popular during the Great Depression, so it makes perfect sense that young musicians like Chuck Berry would have heard it on the radio growing up.
That's something I've never heard in a long time. Young musician, Chuck Berry.
Right?
We always say old Chuck.
Right? But he...
young whippersnapper.
He did. He wrote the lyrics while he was in prison in the early 60s.
Why was he in the prison?
He...
Do tell.
What...
I'm just kidding. We'll talk about Chuck Berry in the future.
We will. So apparently, though, writing the song, he actually used an atlas from the prison library to find the right towns that would match up lyrically with the beat and
nice.
Kind of the pacing of the song. And so essentially, the song tells the story of from the perspective of the main character, who's a poor boy who travels from his home in Norfolk, Virginia, to the promised land of Los Angeles, California, and it's literally a travelogue of his. Traveling across the great expanse of, the southern portion of America. Chuck's version was released in 64 and spent 7 weeks on the charts. Peaked at number 41, so kind of just bubbling under the top 40 on the Billboard Hot 100. What do you think of Chuck Berry's version?
I do like his version. I think it's great. I think I prefer Elvis's, but Chuck's is great too.
You like to live dangerously, sir.
I do. But around that time period, Chuck wasn't doing too much. So, I mean, I think it was in his like heyday, like the point where he was just coming out with hit after hit. Probably would have done better than 41.
Yeah.
But still respectable. At least he was making the charts, unlike a lot of those 50s artists.
Yeah, I mean, he was still getting, radio play to an extent. Creatively, he hadn't fallen into kind of the same tropes and traps that he would later in his career, where he would kind of double back on the same melodies and stuff. He was taking and still doing that sort of thing where he would pull influence, much like Elvis did. Not that Elvis was a songwriter, but he would pull influence from country and blues and R&B and pull it all together in his own unique way. And so Chuck's version is certainly very great. His guitar playing is top-notch as usual. There's actually a great live version that I was able to find. There's a box set you can find digitally. It was called Have Mercy, his complete chess recordings, 1969 to 1974. There's a live recording on there, obviously from a little bit later, a few years down the road. So the band is, great. He's great. Very solid live performance. Elvis's version was recorded in 1973, December 15th, 1973, on an overnight session at Stack Studios. Took 6 takes to finish. The first take is a little bit more driven by David Briggs' organ, whereas the master much more prominently features the bass line from Norbert Putnam. And of course, James Burton with those freaking screaming guitar solos. Yep. Take 1 has Elvis cracking up at a couple points, mispronouncing lyrics, and finally ends the song.
Make it to the telephone. Los Angeles, give me Norfolk, Virginia, Tidewater, 1409. The folks back home, this is the promised land calling, and the motherfuckers are on the line.
Yes, that swear. This is that.
Which is why that take is not officially available on the Promised Land FTD.
I think it was bootlegged, right?
It was bootlegged, and it is out there in the void for people to find. It's a fun listen, because clearly Elvis is having fun.
He said the dirty word.
He did. He did say the dirty word. But anyway, so take 2 is a little slower, and they're really in a groove, and by the end of it, when it ends, Elvis actually kind of ends the take by saying, "Don't look at me, there are no more verses."
Look at me, there's no more verses.
Take 3 is an incomplete take. Elvis catches it about 30 seconds in, saying something about the intro is off. Takes 4 and 5 are complete. Honestly, if they were live versions of it, they would have been perfectly serviceable versions of it. Take 6, though, is just right. Kicks off with Elvis singing a little bit of the Columbus Stockade Blues, which is an old bluegrass song from the 20s.
Way down. Never let me cross your mind. In your heart, you love another. Leave a little darling, I don't mind. Okay, we're ready.
Okay, sick.
Bill over smiling, man. He liked that.
Damn, that song's old. I did that when I was 3 years old, man.
I guess much like Elvis would sometimes do, he would be singing a song and he would be inspired by a different song. Or he would, like, oh, that reminds me of this. And there, so yeah, it was recorded 6 takes. There was a harmony overdub that Elvis recorded during that same session, but it wasn't used on the final master. However, the overdub does appear on This Is Elvis, the soundtrack for the movie, which is pretty recently, within a couple years ago, released on FTD, so you can hear that now in very good quality.
It was used in great effect in the film, too.
Yeah.
When they're showing Elvis touring.
My home in Norfolk, Virginia, California, home of mine. Straddled that Greyhound and rode him in the Raleigh and on across Carolina. Had more to trouble, it turned into a struggle halfway across Alabama. Well, the hound broke down and left us all stranded in downtown Birmingham. Well, Runaway bought me a through train ticket right across Mississippi clean. I was on that midnight flyer out of Birmingham smoking in the New Orleans.
And it's got this great, really full vocal sound. I can understand why that wasn't what was used on the album and on the single, because it does, it is a little much. Does kind of take away from the instrumentation. So what's your take on Elvis's version of Promised Land?
It's good.
That's all you got?
Moving on.
That's all you got?
No, I mean, I enjoy it. I think this is great. I bought the actual, like, it was, what was the album it was on?
Promised Land?
Yeah, it was, right? Promised Land.
Yeah.
I was going to say that. I'm like, was it on Promised Land? Was there an album called Promised Land?
No, the song Promised Land was never on the album called Promised Land.
Yeah. But yeah, that's the main reason why I bought the actual album. I think I first heard this song on This Is Elvis. Yeah. That's where I would have heard it first. And I bought the soundtrack to This Is Elvis, and that's where I first got it. But this is on my regular rotation. I love this version of the song much more than Chuck's. And this is one of those 70s releases that Elvis could still rock when he wanted to.
Yeah, and
he definitely did.
It was far more commercially successful. It was released as a single in September 1974. Peaked at number 14 on the Billboard charts. So it was a top 20 hit.
But it did better than Chuck.
It did way better than Chuck's. Now, to be fair, Chuck's came out at a very rough time in his career. Like you said, I think if it had been released, if he had written it, recorded it at an earlier point or a different point in his career, I think it would have been much better received. But there were a lot of radio stations that were boycotting his music at the time, which really hurt Chuck's.
Was it because of the controversies about him going to prison and all that?
Yep, exactly that. So right. Yeah, which is, I mean, there's a whole story there.
Crazy how people just get blacklisted.
Yeah, but it was, I mean, so it was unfortunate that this great song did get kind of overlooked for a while. But Elvis definitely brought his version to the main record buying public as well. Famously, Elvis's version was featured in Men in Black.
Yeah, that's right. That's true.
There's that scene.
What scene was it in?
So it's the scene where Will Smith and Tommy Lee Jones are in Tommy Lee Jones's character's car, and they're going upside down, and the car is like going at like hyperspeed, and Tommy Lee Jones throws like the 8-track of Promised Land in, and it starts playing Promised Land.
Yeah.
You know, you're much too tense. You're a young man. You need to relax. Learn to take some joy in your work. Do you like music? That's better.
My home in Norfolk, Virginia, California, home my mind. I straddled that Greyhound and rode him in the Raleigh and on across Carolina. Somebody help me get out of the people there cared a little about me and they wouldn't let the poor boy down.
All right.
Shit.
You do know Elvis is dead, right? No, Elvis is not dead. He just went home.
A swinging old chariot come down easy, taxi through the terminal zone. Cut your engine and cool your wings and maybe make it to the telephone.
You know, I bought a pair of Ray-Bans because of that film.
Did you?
Yeah. I loved the look of those so much, and I rocked those for I think 2 summers.
Right. So yeah, I mean,
Moving on.
Yeah, Elvis's version is great. Chuck Berry's version, original, is great. It's been covered by dozens of rock bands and performers over the years. A lot of indie bands, in particular, more popular names that people would be familiar with: Johnny Hallyday, who was the quote-unquote French Elvis. Meatloaf, the Grateful Dead, Jerry Reed covered it in 1972. He was one of the first artists to kind of cover it, even though his version was.
Did he countryfy it?
A little bit, yeah.
Tribute to one of the greatest in the business, Mr. Chuck Berry. Song. Well, I left my home in Norfolk, Virginia, California on my mind. Straddled that Greyhound, I took it into Raleigh and on across Carolina. Well, we stopped in Charlotte, we bypassed Black Hill, never was a minute late. We were 90 miles out of Atlanta, about the sun up, rolling out of Georgia State.
Of course, with Jerry Reed being a guitar player as well, he puts his own spin on it. And of course, many country artists have covered Wabash Cannonball, just up and down the line. Yeah, as far as Promised Land, Elvis's was certainly the most commercially successful version of that song, and Chuck's is very well known and well respected as well. So that was my song of the week.
Excellent. I mean, I love this song, so you're not going to hear a complaint from me.
Awesome.
All right.
So I am pulling the rug out. The doo-wop rug is being pulled out from underneath you.
Oh, no.
Because my song of the week is I Need You So.
I need you so. I need you so. To keep me happy. If I can't have you, I cannot go on. I can't go on.
Oh, nice. Excellent.
So I Need You So was written by Ivory Joe Hunter.
Mm-hmm.
And we've talked a little bit about Ivory Joe Hunter before. He was born in 1914, over 104 years ago, in Kirbyville, Texas. And he was at the time that he kind of became a popular performer for rock and roll, early R&B type stuff. He was
Since I Met You, Baby.
Since I Met You, Baby. He was already middle-aged, and he. Yeah. I mean, he had glasses, and he was kind of chubby, but man, did he have this great voice. Just have you heard the original version of I Need You So?
By him?
Yeah.
No, I don't think I have.
Oh, Gurdeep, you have to.
Really?
Okay, so...
I might have heard it, because I do have a CD of his best hits, or his biggest hits, and it's probably on there, so I have probably heard it. I just can't think of it.
It's... Rather than an R&B song, though, it's played out like a straightforward pop ballad, and it's very much in the vein of what you would hear from guys like Clyde McPhatter and Jackie Wilson later.
Yeah.
Has this great, clear, smooth as butter vocal performance.
I need you so to keep me happy. If I can't have you, I cannot go on.
I mean, it has this tenor voice.
Are you saying it's better than Elvis's?
No.
Okay. That's all I gotta hear, because I know I'm very familiar with Elvis's version.
And there's a reason why I think Elvis succeeds in a different way, because Ivory Joe plays it straight for the most part. However, and just really quickly as an aside, his version went to #1 on the R&B chart in 1950. But there's a version that I found online that's of him performing it at the Grand Ole Opry, and it is actually much more bluesy and a little more soulful and much more in the vein of the way Elvis took the song. Has more of it's more upbeat rather than this kind of straightforward pop ballad. And I would really highly recommend also checking out this live version, because it is, I wouldn't say necessarily an improvement on the original, but it's different enough that it gives it a better R&B flair that he could do.
I will check it out. I will listen to it.
When day is done, I miss you so. I lie and wait to hear your knock upon the door.
Yeah, and so Elvis's version was recorded 7 years later, February 23rd, 1957, at Radio Recorder Studio 1 in Hollywood, alongside Don't Leave Me Now, I Beg of You, and True Love. Apparently he originally...
The original version of Don't Leave Me Now.
Yes, that appeared on the Loving You soundtrack, which is also where this appeared. But apparently...
Were these supposed to be extra songs?
These are bonus songs on the album.
Okay. So they were doing bonus songs a long time.
Yes, they were.
Before they started doing it in the 60s.
They just didn't promote them that way.
Yeah.
So apparently he originally tried out the song at the September 1st, 1956 sessions, the ones where he had recorded songs like Love Me and Paralyzed. But it either was recorded over or they just didn't record it, the tryout. But he did revisit it in February 1957. A few months later, and no alternate takes are known to exist. It's probable that they were destroyed or recorded over during some cleanup at RCA. But the master is a highly underrated song. It was woefully buried on the back end of the Loving You LP when it was released in 1957. What do you think of Elvis's version of I Need You So?
I mean, come on. It's this is in my wheelhouse. You're like almost stealing one of my songs of the week, which I would have eventually gone to. So this is theft, robbery. Because this is a great song. I love it. When I had the Loving You soundtrack, I would listen to that thing all the way through. I wouldn't skip anything. And this ended it was the last song on that, I think.
Yep. And
it was a great way to end. And I mean, it's a doo-wop-ish Elvis song. What more can I say? That's just my sweet spot right there.
So
it's a great song, and Jordanaire sound great with Elvis.
Yeah, so
as usual.
You've got, I mean, the regular bands, Scotty Bill and DJ, but you've also got Dudley Brooks on the piano and the Jordanaires there. Dudley Brooks is going full Fats Domino on this recording. Just this very lilting kind of piano melody that accompanies the song, and then. What I love about the way that Elvis delivers this song, especially compared to Ivory Joe's version, is that he gets progressively more desperate as the song goes on. Like, it starts off with like this very firm statement of, I need you so, and then second verse comes around and he's a little less certain about it.
Yeah.
And then the bridge comes and he's like, when the day is done, and it's this very yearning, longing in his voice. But he brings it back on the third verse and is a little more firm about it. But by the time he gets to that bridge again, when the day is done, he just lets loose. I mean, he's drawing out the vowels to the point where he's doing the knock upon the door lyrics. It almost sounds like he's imitating, like, it's in a way it's like the Buddy Holly hiccuping vocal that we've talked about many times on the show, but it almost sounds more like he's imitating, like, sobbing.
Right.
In the way that he's performing it. And it's just, the way I imagine this is like, it's this guy who's so lonely and missing this girl. And then, like, as it goes on, he gets more and more desperate to the point that he's like curled up on the floor, bawling that he misses her.
Day is done. I miss you so. I lie and wait to hear you knock upon the door. Oh, when you leave me.
And that's what Elvis brings. He brings that emotion to the song, and it's got this great beat. DJ's on the drums, so it makes it more of a proper rock and roll or doo-wop song. Jordanaires,
they're Jordanaring.
They're Jordanaring, and then it didn't really go anywhere. It's not been really highlighted as an Elvis Presley recording.
No.
And there have been other artists that have covered it over the years. Just two or three that I found that were kind of interesting takes on it. Laverne Baker covered it in 1970.
Oh, nice. I never heard her version.
It doesn't sound anything like either Ivory Joe's or Elvis's. The arrangement is so different, the melody isn't even there.
Is it not good?
It's interesting. It's got a funk soul arrangement, but it's so... See, that's the thing. I don't necessarily like the arrangement, but because she's got that powerhouse vocal, she pulls it through in a way that only Laverne Baker could have done it. And you buy into it by the end of it, but it's just like, this isn't how this song is supposed to be done.
I need you so, baby. To keep me happy now. Oh, yeah. And if I can't have you, I can't go on. Baby, I need your arms.
And then she broke into Twiddly-Dee. And you're like, that's
B.J. Thomas in 1970 as well did it. There's almost no doo-wop to it. He turns it more into kind of his type of pop folk, much like
B.J. Thomas did.
He did. He B.J. Thomas did.
When day is done, I need you so. I lie away to hear your knock on my door.
He actually changes some of the chords to different keys, which gives it this kind of uneasy, unwelcoming feeling, which I guess could make sense with the lyrical content, like that this guy's getting more desperate. I just didn't much care for that version. That B.J. Thomas did, and then B.B. King covered it on on his album Reflections, and then multiple times live in concert he has recorded it. I mean, it's great. I mean, hands down. I mean, it's the best blues version of this song. He's got that wavering in his voice, just oozes sorrow, and I mean, he's got those great, blues riffs on the guitar that are very prominent. These, bends on the strings, and I mean, just imagine whatever you're thinking this probably sounds like. It's exactly what it sounds like.
I need your arms around me tightly. I need them nightly when you're not around. One day, I need you. I long to hear your little knock upon the door.
So yeah, I mean, and otherwise it hasn't really been covered by a lot of other artists, especially
Do you think Elvis had the best vocals on it?
Ooh. I think he, on a technical level, no. Ivory Joe Hunter's is, on a technical level, better performed, but on an emotional level, Elvis is much better performed. Like, as an effective performance, Elvis's version is better.
Excellent. Great pick.
So yeah,
that's my song of the week.
I'm back in a hurry, 'cause I need you so. I need you so.
I'd like to take back something. When I said Loving You and all the songs are great, Hot Dog and Party I can do without. But since those are like so short,
so let me get this
they
straight.
Don't bother me so much.
You're gonna bring back Real Gonzville, but you're not gonna bring back Hot Dog.
No. I don't know what it was about Hot Dog and Party. It's just it's. You think it's a song I would like because it's like a fast number and whatever, but I don't know. What do you think about those two songs?
Hot Dog makes me think of sausages.
Yeah.
Just hearing the title. And then with Party, something's off about it. Like, it's not a bad song. Something is off about that song.
Something?
I can't put my finger. I'll have to think about it a little more. Maybe when we finally do a Loving You review, I'll pin it down, like exactly what it is about that song that just doesn't sit right with me.
Yeah. Oh well. Yeah. So excellent song. Oh, also just a side note, Wanda Jackson recorded Party. She has actually a really good version of it.
Interesting.
Yeah, check that out. Okay, so my song. So you went to the 50s, which is what I usually do, and I decided to go to the 70s.
Really?
What you usually do.
Let me guess. Raised on Rock.
How did you know? Three Corn Patches.
I knew it.
Yeah. No. Let It Be Me.
God bless the day I found you. I want to stay around you, and so I beg you, let it be me.
1970 or 1960, depending on which version you're listening to. Mm-hmm. And this song has been recorded, I think, a good estimate is probably 30 million times.
Yeah.
By almost everybody. I think you had a version in the early 2000s as well, but we'll get to that.
Yeah, it was bubbling under the top 40.
Yeah, just slightly under. So the song was originally a French song called, let me see if I can pronounce this, Jetapatia. I really messed it up. Jetapatia is what the original French song was called.
Your Canadian brethren are not going to be pleased with you.
I did not take French in school. It's now apparently mandatory, but when I went to elementary and high school, it was not. I took a second English class instead of taking French. But yeah, I'm sorry for all the people that speak French. I really butchered it. The French lyrics were by Pierre Delaunay. First recorded by Gilbert Bécaud in 1955.
Si tu condamnes, je tends mon âme au creux des flammes, je n'y peux rien. Avec les peines, l'amour et la haine coulant dans mes veines, je t'appartiens.
This is a nice version. It's always great to hear original versions of songs that were first recorded in different languages.
Yeah.
I think Beyond the Sea is one of those that stands out similar to this. I think it was called La Mer, which is the original Beyond the Sea. But this is a really, really good version, and check that out.
Okay.
The first English version was in 1957 by Jill Corey. The English lyrics were by Manny Curtis. This also was a nice version, but more like operatic style by Jill Corey. But it's still nice. Lots of strings. But if you can picture it sung operatically, that's kind of her version.
Mm-hmm.
I bless the day I found you. I want to stay around you. And so I beg you, let it be me.
The most popular version, I believe, because there's another one that's kind of popular as well, was Everly Brothers. They did it in 1960. Yep. They really brought it to prominence.
Top 10 hit?
Yeah, it reached number 7 on the Billboard charts. So I really love this version. The Everly harmony is in full effect. I really can't remember which version I heard first, this or Elvis's, because in the early 90s, that was where I was like into my, I got to get everything from all these different singers, popular singers in the 50s. Mm-hmm. And this is one of those early CDs that I bought, and this was on there. But then I was also buying Elvis, so it's really close which version I heard. But I like both versions.
Don't take this heaven from one if you must cling to someone now and forever. Let it be me.
So Elvis performed the song a bunch of times in the 70s at the International Hotel in Vegas. The first time looks to be January 26, 1970. You can check out this version on the FTD on the onstage season, opening and closing. This is a good version, but it's not as polished as we get later on. Mm-hmm. He seems to be getting used to the song at this time, and then he messes up a few words.
What would life be? So never leave me lonely. Just tell me you love me only, and that you'll always let it be me.
The one we're familiar with is from February 19th, 1970, which was released on the Onstage album. Whenever he sang the song, he always starts off saying that there's a beautiful song that came out a few years ago. It's not his song, but he'd like to sing it, or he'd be like, there's a song that's been covered a bunch of times. It's a Beatles song. I like to sing it. It's always a variation of that, because I don't know why he wants to put that caveat in there, but he seems to want to. I really love this version. He sings it faster than the Everly Brothers did, but man, does it work. One of my favorite parts in this, when he ad-libs, when he goes, without your sweet love, and then he's like, tell me, what would life be? 'Cause that tell me he ad-libs. Yeah. And I like that part so much that when I listen to the Everly Brothers sing it, I myself add the tell me, what would life be? It's just because it just stands out.
Each time we meet love, I find complete love. Oh, without your sweet love, tell me, what would life be?
What do you think about this song?
Love it. I was first introduced to this song through the extended edition of Onstage that came out. I think it came out in '99. I didn't get it until the early 2000s, but it was essentially the version of Onstage that added songs like Don't Cry Daddy and Kentucky Rain and some of those other songs.
It wasn't on the Onstage album originally.
It was from the same engagement, the February 1970 shows. But that was where I first heard it, and then much like on the original album, it's the last song on the album. And what I've always liked about that song is that it has this sweet, sweeping orchestration on Elvis's version, which is why I was extremely glad to hear a fully orchestrated version on The Wonder of You with the Royal Philharmonic Orchestra.
And that you'll always let it be me.
makes it his own, doesn't he? The song.
He does.
I wonder how he would have done it in the studio. How he would have arranged it. Maybe slower. I'm just curious.
Yeah, I mean, obviously because he's performing it live, he usually took a lot of his songs at even the slower songs, he would take it a faster clip than he would do in
up
studio.
a notch.
And so I think he probably would have slowed it down.
Yeah. So the overdubs were done in studio on March 31st of that year, and it was released in June, as I said, on the Onstage album, which reached number 13 on the Billboard Top 200. From what I researched, after February 23, he didn't perform it again. I think it's one of those songs like Runaway where, it was in for that one engagement and then he didn't really go for it again.
It ran its course.
It did, but, I wouldn't have mind hearing it later on. So, as I said, the song was recorded 4 billion times, and I'll just highlight some of the standouts. Betty Everett and Jerry Butler had a version from 1964, and this is the one I was saying that was also very popular because it reached number 5 on the Billboard chart, which makes it the most successful. And this is an excellent version. They both have beautiful voices, and they complement each other. Check that version out. It's
and
great.
For people who aren't familiar, Jerry Butler was the fellow who had written Only the Strong Survive that Elvis did.
For Your Precious Love is another song of his that's really good.
I bless the day I found you. I want to stay around you. And so I beg you, let it be me.
Sam and Dave. Wow, excellent version from 1967. Holy crap, I love this version. It's excellent. It's very, very soulful R&B. You gotta listen to this version. Sam Moore's voice. Wow.
Yeah.
Don't take this heaven from one if you must cling to someone now and forever.
I get shades of Sam Cooke listening to this, but that's that's their whole thing about being soul. Like they are soul men, right?
Yeah.
So lastly, I just want to bring up the Jay and the Americans version from 1970. They actually re-recorded it, I think, in the 90s too, but this is the 70s one on their Museum Volume 1 album. This is another great version, very rocking, heavy drums and guitars. Excellent version. Check that out.
Tell me you love me only, and that you'll always let it be me.
But as I said, there's many versions of this song. I'll just list a few more that people might be interested in listening to. Andy Williams, Brenda Lee, Sonny and Cher. You can see Sonny and Cher pulling this song off Tom Jones, Petula Clark, Bob Dylan, Roberta Flack, Bobby Darin, Kenny Rogers, Donnie and Marie, Bruce Springsteen, and the one you probably want to listen to the most, Leonard Nimoy. Spock himself sang this song in 1970, I believe. So
he was not a terrible singer.
Yeah, I don't think this is a good version. I think I remember listening to it. It's
I bless the day I found you. I want to stay around you, and so I beg you.
I don't think this was his forte, this song especially, but if you're into, it's weird. This is like a Star Trek episode. We talked about Shatner, and now we're talking about Leonard Nimoy.
Yeah. See, I haven't heard his version, but I have on his album The Two Sides of Leonard Nimoy. That's the one that's got the Ballad of Bilbo Baggins. I have listened to that, and on the flip side is all Spock themed songs. So there's like that one song, Highly Illogical, and then on the other side, it's a mix of like folk and country songs. And he's got a pretty okay version of "Gentle on My Mind" on there. But yeah,
didn't he have like an identity crisis? Didn't he have a book that says "I'm not Spock," and then later he had his book that said "I am Spock"?
Yeah.
I think he was always fighting that role. Then when he was on The Simpsons, he like played himself as Spock, which is kind of interesting.
Mm-hmm.
It was excellent. This is the monorail episode. If anyone's interested, such a funny episode. It's so great. He doesn't do nothing in the episode. He just has these expressions that he says, these pearls of wisdom that doesn't help anybody. And then at the end, when everything's saved, he's like, "Well, looks like my job's done." And someone's like, "You didn't do anything." I think it was Barney. He was like, "You didn't do anything," and he goes, "Didn't I?" And he just, what do you call that? Teleports away.
Beams.
Is that what they do? I wasn't much into Star Trek.
Beam me up, Scotty.
Besides the movies, I wasn't too much into Star Trek.
We're way off topic now, but did Elvis watch Star Trek? Did he like
I think he did. I think that I read somewhere that was one of his favorite shows. So, I mean, maybe he would have appreciated Leonard Nimoy's version of Let It Be Me.
I don't know about that, but
he's like, "Spock can't sing. What are you doing?"
Cool. Well, great pick. That's a good one.
Thank you. Yeah, it's one that I was driving and I was just going through songs and this came up. I'm like, hey, I can highlight this and the Everly Brothers because we never really talked about them before.
You've been listening to the TCBcast, an unofficial Elvis fan podcast. Justin Gosman and Gurdeep Ladar have left the building.
Someone must have stomped on his head with those blue suede shoes.
Thank you and good night.